Digital platforms have become a ubiquitous part of life, used for everything from following a favorite band to supporting a political movement. It's a diverse landscape. Some parts are battlefields, where opposing parties lock horns in a bid to argue their case, while other parts are spaces for venting about that work colleague you can't stand or airing your latest gripe. Then there are social media feeds, where you might have thousands of friends but still lack the meaningful connection you long for. With all these options at our fingertips, you can now communicate with more people than ever before. And yet, this doesn't necessarily mean you're better placed to change people's perspectives or behaviors. To effect change by harnessing the power of the internet, you need to deepen your understanding of human nature. Author Dale Carnegie was a master of influence. He understood that every human is hardwired for self-preservation. This instinct has served us well since humankind first walked the earth, by helping us survive. But with it comes the tendency to be defensive when we feel attacked, and that includes attacks on our ego. This is why you can't change someone's opinion by condemning or criticizing them. As soon as you show disapproval, either through words or body language, the other party will either shut down or return fire. And once that happens, you'll never be able to persuade them to change their position. That means you'll lose any chance of influencing them. Carnegie understood this, so he consciously adopted the 3 principles that start with the letter C to help him avoid this problem. He never condemned others, never criticized them, and he never complained. And while Carnegie's life played out before the digital age had begun, these principles would have served him well today. In a time when we can reach larger audiences at lightning speed and with minimal cost via tools like social media, learn to exercise restraint. When you come across content that makes you feel triggered or reactive, resist the urge to respond for at least 5 minutes. This will give you the time and space you need to calm down. Once you're calm, you can ground yourself back in Carnegie's 3C rules and approach the situation without anger. Mr. Bates, a business owner from Georgia, is a loyal customer of Atlanta restaurant Bones. Whenever his out-of-town suppliers visit, he makes the 70-mile trip to take them there. This loyalty was inspired by a single interaction that happened on his second visit to Bones. The waiter greeted Bates by name and said it was a pleasure to see him again. Bates was struck by this personalized service. Not only had the waiter bothered to learn his name, but he'd also taken the time to find out whether Bates had dined at Bones before. This personalized service made Bates feel deeply valued, a clever strategy that made the restaurant's popularity skyrocket. Learning people's names makes them feel valued because it shows that you see people as distinct individuals, not just faceless members of the crowd. When you use a person's name, it signals to them that you've made the effort to pay attention and commit their name to memory. This forms a connection between the two of you. Listening is another powerful technique that makes people feel deeply valued. As humans, we innately want to feel heard because it leads to being understood. And listening attentively to others shows that person that you see them as important, which is why it's the basis of many psychoanalyst practices. Once upon a time, if you wanted to say something insulting to someone, you had to do it to their face. That made you think twice before doing so, as you knew you'd have to suffer the consequences, which might include being attacked in return or being judged by those witnessing the scene you'd caused. Online, you don't have to look your target in the eye while you slander them, or even reveal your identity. You're free to seek out, create or feed online conflicts with people you've never even met. But just as criticism doesn't change anyone's mind or behavior, neither does firing accusations at them. If you want to influence what people think, you need to take a different approach. Instead of trying to win arguments, shift your approach to problem solving by seeking out common ground. By looking at points of conflict as opportunities to problem solve together, you're more likely to de-escalate anger and discover outcomes that work for everyone. Of course, when it comes to contentious issues, it's not easy to listen to people whose opinions differ from yours. But by following a few rules, you'll create an environment where two-way dialogue can replace outright conflict. Firstly, always be respectful and open-minded. Even if you're sure you're right, telling someone they're wrong will only bruise their ego and put them on the defensive, ruining any chance you have of encouraging them to consider your position. Secondly, try to see the situation from their point of view. Things may well look completely different from where they're standing. Explore the possibility that you may both be right, depending on how you look at the issue. Finally, take a humble approach. Admit the possibility that maybe you're wrong. This will deepen the rapport between you and the other party, making a positive outcome more likely. Before the digital age, people discovered shared interests through conversation as their friendship, relationship, or connection unfolded. But social media has changed that pattern. We don't need to meet someone to discover their hobbies, passions, or political preferences. Instead, we can just look at their Facebook page. Also, social media draws people with similar interests together. Every time you follow an account dedicated to a musician, celebrity, or charity, you're connecting with a virtual group of people with whom you have something in common. Even if you haven't met them, similarly, your blog or social media account creates opportunities for you to form connections with the people who follow you, whether or not you've met them. When someone follows you, it's akin to them saying yes to you. Once you have this initial yes, you're in a position to influence that follower. The act of saying yes puts people in a positive state of mind and makes them more open. So, the more yes you prompt from someone, the stronger your ability to influence them is. In our victory-obsessed culture, people often think the best way to get ahead is to steal all the limelight or credit they can. But behaving this way will make your ability to influence others plunge astronomically. After all, true influence is grounded in fostering relationships. For instance, think about your closest friend. Is that person someone who talks endlessly about themselves, or do they make you feel cared for and important? And what about the best manager you've ever had? Did they take all the credit when your projects succeeded? Or did they celebrate the contributions of everyone on the team? Though it may seem counterintuitive, when we give credit away freely, we end up profiting more, both personally and professionally. How do you feel towards your most altruistic friend, or the boss that praises you in front of the CEO? These are the people you are most loyal to, the ones you'll do anything to help in return for their support. Credit that's given away through an expression of sincere gratitude has the most influential power. Because it doesn't sound like flattery designed to manipulate someone into doing something. When you focus on helping others to succeed, instead of fixating exclusively on your own goals, you end up creating a community that sincerely wants to help its members live their best lives. If you're a leader who's responsible for a team, you'll have to provide performance feedback from time to time. Often, leaders make the mistake of jumping straight into an employee's faults or shortcomings. Even if you scaffold this criticism with a compliment, what your employee hears is that they've failed. And as soon as someone feels like a failure, their performance will decline. If you want your employees to grow, you must help them feel positive. Basketball coach Trent Lorcher was an expert at this. When his team lost an important game after missing free throws, he would resist yelling at them, which was what he felt like doing. Instead, he praised them for getting the free throws by playing aggressively. He then had them practice free throws for an hour, rebuilding their confidence through not just praise, but extra practice. The praise and the extra practice helped rebuild their confidence. Given that failure is something we all experience, it's surprising that we aren't more supportive of others when they fail. And yet, being supportive is actually in your best interests, especially if the person who's failed is someone you're responsible for, like a team or family member. If you want these people to regain their confidence and make sure their long-term performance isn't jeopardized, you have to change your attitude towards failure. When a workplace acknowledges that mistakes inevitably happen and are an opportunity to learn, employees feel empowered to experiment and innovate. They also feel more comfortable admitting failure sooner, which means you'll be alerted to any potential issues before they snowball. Creating an environment that fosters resilience in the face of failure starts with open dialogue. Don't just discuss mistakes or dead ends as they happen. Acknowledge the ways a project might fail before your team starts working on it. Knowing that failure is a possibility will take away any stigma around it. In 2010, Best Western Hotels launched a Facebook page called Wallace Should Win. In its first week alone, over 2,700 people visited the page, posting messages of praise to Wallace Pope, a single dad who'd worked at a Best Western in Chicago for years. Pope had been nominated for a Stars of the Industry Award, which recognizes the value of outstanding employees, and Best Western wanted to do everything in its power to help him win. After all, Pope's positive attitude and bright smile had won them countless loyal customers. But more importantly, the Facebook page provided a space for people to express their gratitude for Pope's fantastic work. When a person receives praise, they naturally continue the behavior that prompted it. But if positive behaviors aren't acknowledged, most people tend to stop doing them. So if you want to encourage an employee, praise is essential. Firstly, make sure your praise is always sincere and specific. A general thank you will come across as politeness, but if you tell an employee that you appreciate how he consistently greets customers with a smile, the specificity of your praise means it has an impact and encourages that behavior. Secondly, don't delay praise. The best time to give praise is immediately after witnessing a positive behavior or learning about a success. This creates a powerful connection between the activity and your praise. If you hold off until a staff meeting or performance review, the praise won't have the same effect. Finally, praise your team members publicly, as Best Western did for Pope. Publicly showing your admiration for someone's work will make them feel deeply valued and inspire them to work even harder. Remember, when you praise someone, you're telling them not only that they've exceeded a performance benchmark, but that you appreciate them. And this will win you loyalty and commitment, qualities that lead to success. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more book discussions.